This suit Eddie has, it was made by our fathers. But it used my dad's DNA as a starting palette.
So, it's like part you?
No. Well, yeah. In a creepy way.
Yeah.
When I got close to it in the museum, it felt like my brain was going to crawl out of my face.
Ew. Ew, again?
Sorry.
Do you know what you're doing?
Kind of.
What is it?
I have no idea.
What are those black things?
Yeah, that's the I have no idea part.
Edward? Edward, wake up. Edward, wake up.
Where am I?
Your home, Edward. This is where what you've become was born.
I know you.
Bolivar Trask, this is my associate, Dr. Adrian Toombs.
I did my graduate work with your father's lab. I was there when he and Dr. Parker...
Let's get down to business, shall we, Edward? The Venom suit is worth billions of dollars in government contracts. We wish to test...
This suit, it's too much for anyone to control.
It will kill you if we leave you in there alone.
When the suit consumes you, we will find someone else to test it. One way or the other, Edward, we will get what we are after.
All right. What do I do first?
This is a bad gig, man.
I don't get it. Oh, it's worth tangling with this thing.
A couple $100,000 in all the new...
All right, people, on your toes. No, I want out. You ready? I'm serious. I don't.
Hey, freak's vulnerable to electricity. This'll be fun. Bring it!
So it's time you get introduced to that other thing Venom is going to be doing during his gameplay segments, which is chasing people. There are quite a few chasing segments in this game. There's 2 for Venom and several for Spidey. I think this chasing segment feels a bit more scripted than the others. I mean, they're all scripted. But Electro stops every so often to unleash an electric shockwave, regardless of where you are. That electric shockwave is also the most dangerous thing about this chase. You kinda have to memorize the entire race so that way you don't land on top of him right as he's about to unleash it. Because if it does hit you, not only will it deal significant damage, but it will knock you into the air and activate your ragdoll. You can recover quickly enough by using Venom's tentacle to grab something, but if you get hit by the shockwave more than a couple times, you're gonna have to stop to eat someone before the fight's over. So there isn't all that much strategy I can give you here aside from you better memorize how the fight works. And if you're thinking that just being super careful will solve the problem for you, well, the quick changes in elevation will ensure that is not the case. The quick changes in elevation mean Electro can escape you incredibly quickly in a way that you can't possibly catch up. There's also like no question that he's just way faster than you. In a lot of the other fights it feels kinda close and you can even get right next to the people you're chasing. But the only reason you can get close to Electro is because he deliberately stops to fuck with you. And his dialogue also reflects this. He never stops mocking you, and he will repeat the same lines over and over and over. Considering how many people probably had to retry this stage, I think that could get on someone's nerves. I remember back when I very first played this game, I was definitely upset with this Electro chase. It took me like 2 hours. But that's because I was young and dumb, and his taunting really irritated me. Also, holy shit, that moon is enormous. You know, if you memorize this level well enough, you can actually start throwing cars at Electro when he stops. But they don't hurt him, they just kind of bounce off his head. Something a little pleasant about Electro's taunting is that he tells you when he's about to climb. But almost immediately after he climbs, he starts to descend again, so you really gotta move yourself. And I didn't know this as a kid, but you can actually climb way faster by tapping the R2 button while you're crawling on walls. And that was very important to know. If I knew that, then I might have not lost at this section so much. But that quick ascent and descent is by far the most difficult part of the race, at least to me. There's not too much else interesting that happens, but we are near the end. One more thing that happens is because I got hit twice by the electricity shockwave, I stopped to eat someone. But yeah, coming back to this game after so long, this chase isn't nearly as bad as I remember it being. It is the only chase in the game without checkpoints, so that may have contributed to my frustrations a little bit. But it's really not any more or less difficult than some of the boss battles, and yeah, there, I finally hit Electro with a car and it just kinda bounced off him. As a completely unrelated side note, if you're worried about having to collect these secret tokens like this one in the open world in order to get to the new areas of the story, I wouldn't stress over it. You need less than 20.
I thought this was a chase, not a freaking... Here I am, you freak! Come on! Let's do this! Come on! Come and get me!
Wait a second. Are you fighting another superhero on the side? I thought you and me had something special. I bet it's Daredevil, isn't it? What does he have?
Back off, kid! I did it! I finally got that little yutz! Alright, let's finish this up. Mine! Like hell! I got dibs!
So now it's time to actually fight Electro, and there are two valid methods of attack. You can hit him from a distance with your tentacles, or you can throw cars at him. Either of these methods will do. It's worth noting that the cars hurt more, but you can usually only hit him with one or two before he uses an electric shockwave to push you back. All things considered, it's a really easy fight, and yeah, he can deal decent damage to you, but there are plenty of innocent people around. And like I said, these cars really hurt him. The only thing you really need to look out for is that he will attack Spidey if you're not constantly on his ass. Luckily for us, constantly being on his ass is also super easy. This fight also introduces a pattern in most of Venom's boss fights where almost every boss he fights has an attack that will push you away, a shockwave of some sort. Because if they didn't do that, then you could just wail on them non-stop for the whole fight, and usually these shockwave attacks are enough to put the fight back in the boss's favor for a few seconds. But sometimes they're not.
Alright, no more screwing around. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do it right. That's more like it!
Welcome to the second half of the Electro fight, also known as the kind of difficult half. Our first order of business is to destroy absolutely every single electronic sign in Times Square. If we don't do this, and we instead focus on taking out Electro himself, then Electro will use these signs to recharge, and every single one of them needs to go down. And I don't want to say getting rid of the signs is the only difficult part of the fight, but it's the only difficult part of the fight. Electro aims like absolute shit. Like every 1 out of 7 shots actually hits you, and when they do hit, they barely deal any damage. Considering we're supposed to be weak to electricity, it's kinda terrible. Now, Spidey's health isn't as resilient as ours, and it drains pretty quickly during the second half of the fight. We can get him off Spidey's back by just throwing another car at him, though. Speaking of throwing cars at him, that's how you win this section. After you destroy all the signs, you just hurl car after car after car at Electro. In the first half you could do cars or your tentacles, you know, either one works, but for the second half it has to be cars if you want to deal any serious damage or finish the fight this century. And if you nail him enough times with the cars, then he loses his charge and transforms back into a regular schmuck that we can just run up and wail on. I want to say that I appreciate how many things are going on in this fight. There's a lot of destructible objects in the environment. There's the fact that you need to destroy all the signs. You have to watch out for Spidey's health bar. And of course your own health is constantly draining. All the ingredients for a really tense and interesting fight are right there, and no one can say it's not interesting from a presentation standpoint. but you can definitely say that it's way too easy. If they made Electro's attacks deal more damage or made him more accurate, then that might have made the fight a bit more challenging, but maybe they were worried about frustrating the player because they have so much to keep track of already. But hey, it's still fun, and after you understand the gimmick, then yeah, it's a piece of cake.
Stand down! Please. Peter, come on, kiddo, wake up.
What are you doing here?
Come on, get up.
Why can't you keep this electric guy you're supposed to be keeping in prison? And that lady, the silver lady that captured Eddie the other day. Why couldn't she?
Peter, you need to call...
I need to quit getting almost killed by stupid people is what I need.